iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
Andrew and Aneesa, thank you so much for joining iHeartRadio Broadway today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited. I got to see the show for the first time a couple weeks ago. I didn't get to see it during the first run. So not only did I have the best time at the Booth Theater the other night, but I feel like you all are having the best times of your lives every night that you get to perform this show.
Yeah, we're just making each other laugh. I think that's what's so fun about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that people are open to buying tickets to come see us play with our friends and just have like an on-stage recess. I mean, there's more to it than that, but we really are just like delighting in each other's ridiculousness.
And I think, Andrew, the thing that not only are you all ridiculously talented, but the thing that comes across is that you all are such a family unit. You are all friends. I think you all have each other's back on stage no matter what happens. So, and I think that comes across on top of being super talented. So, Andrew, what's that like, just being able to perform basically with your family all week?
You kind of nailed it. Like the having each other's back part is the most important thing. It's not being an incredible lyricist or rhymer or singer, although the group has all of those. It's supporting each other through doing something vulnerable. And that vulnerability might just be not knowing what I'm going to say and hoping that it comes out as a punchline that's funny, or retelling somebody's story in a good way. Or it might be really sharing something that is intense for me and vulnerable, and knowing that my on-stage family are going to listen with open ears, open eyes, open heart. And they always do. And it's kind of, the more we play together, the more it actually feels like a real family, where there's siblings who are like poking at each other and, and just like, oh, he did that again. But it's such a loving way to be like, wow. We're building this closeness that allows us to be more vulnerable because we've built trust with each other.
Yeah.
And Aneesa, I was there the night where there was the fluffy fly moment that happened on stage.
Were you?
Oh no. It's haunting her again.
Well, and I think this just goes into that camaraderie where you can push each other's buttons a little bit as family members, but be in on the joke at the same time.
Yeah. For the people that have no idea what happened, there's a part in the show where we pull out words that we got from the audience, and we put a MC on the spot, and I just am throwing them words, and I read fly, but the word was actually fluffy. And to my defense, it's the way that it was written. I have
complete penmanship.
And I have those moments on stage sometimes where I might mess up a word, or maybe I don't know what a word means. And we take that and make it part of the show. People were making fun of me for the entirety of the show. It was a through line of the show. When I got outside to sign playbills, there was a little kid who came up to me and said, fly. And then his mom was like, you want him? And I was like, no, I don't. But it doesn't just happen to me. It happens to all of us. So there's a moment where we throw a catch mic into the audience, and one time Tarek threw it 3 times because it never landed. And so it's stupid things like that happen. It's an improv show. Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what we call mistakes are the things that we planned that did not go as planned, are sometimes the most fun moment. They let the audience know that we're actually improvising, and they also make us laugh at each other, and they become that like really kind of special thing that you're unlikely to see in another show.
Well, and I think as an audience member, you're kind of waiting to see if it's going to reappear throughout the whole entire show. And it does become a running gag and a running joke, but it makes it kind of on the edge of your seat. Will this come back at some point? Which I think is super fun.
That's what makes it special, because we are going to have inside jokes with that audience and that audience only for that night and that night only. And that's it. That's not going to go into another show. So it's, that kid coming up to me, we're the only people that are going to understand that. And I think that's what makes our show so unique.
Well, I'm glad I'm in on that inside joke, because it was a super fun night at the theater. I will say that. So.
Well, at least the hundreds of thousands of iHeart fans now also know.
Awesome.
I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine.
I will also say, I think the fact that you all did win the Tony Award for the first round of Freestyle Love Supreme on Broadway, does it feel the same as the first run, or is there anything kind of different about this second run?
For me personally, it feels a little different in that we've had this 18-month period where we've only been on Zoom and we haven't been connecting in person quite as much. And even though we're really glad that we've gotten to teach classes and do performances online through FLS and FLS Academy, now to actually be in a room and breathing the same air and interacting with each other and the audience, we craved it. That connection is really important, and we can tell our audiences aren't taking it for granted. They're like hyped to also be out of the house and listening to something and having new stories to share and new things to listen to.
Yeah, I'd say for me, all of that is very true. And then also, I feel more grounded this time around. Coming into it back in 2019, we had a week of rehearsal. The guys have been doing the show for a lot of years, and I was the newbie, so it was very terrifying. And the only way you can learn how to do the show is by getting the reps in. But this time around, it just feels more fun because I'm being thrown into doing different things, and I feel more comfortable on stage. So now I'm acting pretty wild on the stage. If being a little crazy.
If I could add to that, young niece. Young niece clearly is a trained singer and has freestyled a lot of her life, and we met her through an FLS Academy class.
Yeah.
But she really had a week of rehearsal before going into her first Broadway show, which is an improv show. Yeah, that's no time at all. And she crushed it in that first run. But also the evolution, I think, just in confidence and taking the lead now. You are a leader on the stage every time you get up there. It's mind-blowing to watch. It's just I love it so much. Like you crush it. You're rhyming, you're singing.
The feeling is mutual. Okay.
Well, and I think the story of Aneesa, you taking a class at the Freestyle Love Supreme Academy to then being in both the first run and the second run on Broadway, it's such a special story. And I want you both to talk about how the Academy is doing, how people can find out about the Academy, because I do think it's such a really special program.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been around for a few years. A number of us from the actual cast are founders of the group. Two Touch, Shockwave, Jelly, myself. Jelly, myself. We started this academy because we knew that the love and vulnerability and joy that we were getting from improv thinking and freestyle rap is kind of available to anyone who wants to jump in. You don't have to know a ton about improv or hip hop to have those things kind of light up your life in a new way and get to tell your story in a new way. So we thought, hey, what if we could hear from quieter voices who aren't necessarily even performers? So we have Supreme Court lawyers, rabbis, neuroscientists, students, teachers, people from hip hop heads, people who, my mom took a class. She's in her 70s. And
that's amazing.
Everyone who I know who has taken the class has gotten something out of it, either improving their improv and freestyle and beatboxing skills, but more importantly, having a new community that will listen to them and where they can share their voice. And then, we meet someone like Aneesa, and it's like, wow, you share your voice, and also it's a voice that everyone in the world should pay to see.
It's such a community. I mean, going into the Freestyle Love Supreme Academy, I wasn't necessarily looking to end up doing the show. I was a fan of it, and I used to go see it back in college and high school. And I remember seeing the show and saying to myself, this is everything I've ever wanted to do. So maybe in the back of my head, but entering the class, it was such a beautiful space where it wasn't competitive. No one was trying to be the best. I felt, as an anxious person who tends to be quiet sometimes, I was able to find my footing and to use these tools in this space where I've never used these things before in real life. Like, you know, I would rap in high school as a joke, or like at a party. It wasn't something that I did seriously, and it's still not serious, but but it was just so much fun. And I'm just excited that this thing is happening and that there's this outlet for people who may need to figure out how to become more confident in their voice. And when we were in the pandemic, it was such a lifeline for so many people because we weren't in each other's faces. There wasn't that community that we had when we're at work, or doing different activities, or, you know, hanging out with our friends. But to get together on Zoom, and I have to say that I was skeptical at first. Is this gonna work? How are we gonna do this? And we're rapping on Zoom, but it worked. And so to see that so many people needed it, and to hear from the people in the FLS Academy how much that if they didn't have this, they wouldn't know how they would have survived the pandemic, is really beautiful and special. And I hope that we can continue to give that gift to people that need it.
And I think the lovely kind of full circle moment for you, Aneesa, is that you went from a student to the Broadway production, but you're also an instructor for the Academy as well. And I think that opportunity for you to give back to not just the community, but to the school that you helped find your voice in a way, I think is such a lovely full circle moment for you.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's all very wild. I pinch myself every day.
Well, and I also want to say, there are moments in the show. I mean, you go in thinking that you're going to have the best time in the world, but there is a moment where I wasn't expecting to actually break down in tears. And it was the moment where three of you were talking about relationships with fathers. And I wept into my mask because it's such a beautiful, beautiful moment that happened. And you're not expecting everything to kind of slow down and for tears to emerge during Freestyle Love Supreme, but that's what happened. And I'm curious if other people have had those kind of moments during the show where they kind of go, I was not expecting that at all. And I know every night's different, but
yeah, and I mean that's the difference of every night is kind of the beauty of it, but that is a reoccurring theme. There's, you know, the audience gives us so much, gives us words, gives us all the material for the show, really gives us a story of something that went horribly wrong, and then we reenact it. So they've given us so much of themselves that we also really try to, after we built this trust, give ourselves back and share. And we all have fears, and we all have loss, and we all have pain. And it's not a guarantee that will come out, because we really want to be honest to whatever the words are and the moments are. But we try to dig down and really get real with those 800 people that we probably don't know, because there's a catharsis in hearing about somebody else's story. And we do hear it a lot after shows of the like, hey, that moment really brought me to tears. We did a tribute to Sondheim the other day because somebody gave this Sondheim as a suggestion, and it just became a like, oh wow, what a gift to us that they gave us the word and then allowed us to like really in song explore our feelings about this, genius. So the more shows you come see, the more I think you'll see that there's it'll go from wild hilarity. I won't dig into your story last night, but Aneesa just blew the roof off with a very, very personal story that only that audience will hear. And she might regret that they heard it. But for all of us, we were like, jaw on the floor. And then the next moment may be, somebody losing someone, or worried about their own health in a certain way. So
it's one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah.
Because we also don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the through line in general, but one of us might end up crying or breaking down as well. And also we learn so much about each other. Mm-hmm. That's a part of the show where we learn a lot about each other. Yeah. And when you take that time away from the last run and you come back with new stories to tell, like that's also really, really, really cool too. Yeah, sometimes a lot of personal things get on that stage. It'll be funny, we'll be laughing, next moment we're crying, and that's what you can expect from an improv comedy show.
You know, when some folks at a Thanksgiving table will be like, all right, before dinner, we're going to each say something we're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, you really learn a little bit about your family when we do that. It's like we do that every night,
Yeah.
but over a beat in front of 800 people.
Yeah.
And it, you know, some of it is hilarious and some of it is just...
Because we're watching in awe sometimes,
Yeah.
just as the audience is like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. That's crazy.
Yeah, James Monroe Iglehart had to do laps around the stools last night when Aneesa finished her story. He was like, I can't even, and he couldn't sing for a while. He had to like compose himself. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say with the cast, you never know who's going to show up at the show, but especially this go around, it's a lot of the Broadway community coming out to be a part of the show. You've had Josh Groban, you've Laura Benanti's coming, you've had Daniel J. Watts. I mean, it's kind of amazing to see all these new faces that are coming to join you all and to play on stage. So I'm curious, I'm more curious that Josh Groban, that to me is the most surprising one that I wish I could have seen perform on
We
stage.
love Joshy.
Yeah, he came in 2019 too, and he's, I mean, those who are obsessed with Josh probably know through interviews and he's very funny, and
He's our best friend now.
Yeah, he came to our Halloween party. We love Josh. Golden Globes we call him now, but he's such a good spirit. What's really interesting is you see somebody like that who is, you know, a gift. Like his talent is kind of unrivaled in his lane, and he shows up to our show and is nervous all of a sudden. Where I doubt I mean, who knows? Maybe he gets that nervous for Radio City Music Hall and Carnegie Hall. But there's something about improv and that not knowing what you're gonna say. Where people will have a different kind of energy where it's like, oh wow, we're really being thrown into the fire together, and we just get to invite him.
He kills it.
Yeah, and of course.
So I will say, for all of the celebrities that have been there, I feel like Josh Groban is the one I truly wish that I could have seen live on stage. because it's such a different, you know, he's funny and he can act and he can sing, but I would love to see him in an improv setting.
Yeah, I mean, we do. There's a thing in improv called pimping out, which you know, for correctness or not in the term, it's like endowing. I'll be like, oh, and here's that song Aneesa wrote about a giraffe. That would be me, kind of like really making her do that on the spot. And we kind of pimped Josh out in some of the games where it's just like, oh, and we're on the radio, and Josh Groban comes on singing a melody, a medley of his biggest hits, and he'll like. Oh, I guess I'm stepping forward now. And
he also just surprised us with his own stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I was very surprised, especially the first time around. I was like, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, like for having a singer or a musician on with us, it's, you know, it's beautiful and it's kind of a no-brainer fold into our show. But it's been really interesting. You mentioned Daniel Watts, to have people come in with talents that we don't use in the show, tap dancing, a tap dancing duet between Daniel J. Watts and our beatboxer Kayla Milady, Kaiser Rose.
Insane.
Our minds are just blown watching this, like tap, you know,
insane.
Yeah, so
awesome.
It's really us.
Come back, D. Watts.
Yeah, do it.
So the rest of the show, the run is till January 2nd. So in the time that you have left, I know that you probably know who's coming, but do you have any like dream guests that you both want to come be a part of the show?
Yes. Bobby McFerrin, Erykah Badu, Missy Elliott,
Lizzo,
Tierra Whack, Harry Mack, Jamie Foxx. Do you know any of these people?
Jay-Z.
We will tag them in anything that you want us to tag
Please
them
come
in.
do the show.
I always wanted to meet Rihanna.
I would love to see Lizzo do it, but also to play the flute as well.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that would be brilliant. Weird Al.
Weird Al
is a hero of mine and friends with Lynn. You know, that'd be great. I always mention Weird Al. But, you know, like whoever it is, it's a joy for us. It's like inviting that neighbor over to sit at that Thanksgiving table, and it's just kind of silly. And also I don't know how much it's announced, but we are going on tour next year.
Yeah.
We're starting in San Francisco.
I was just going to say, the show ends January 2nd at the booth and then a national tour is going to kick off, which is super exciting. I'm so excited that people around the country who can't necessarily come to Broadway are going to be able to see you guys perform. It's amazing.
No more Times Square jokes.
Yeah.
How will we survive?
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with we're starting in San Francisco, which is a kind of a blessing for Two Touch and I, who I lived there for 13 years. He lived there for maybe 16 years. So it'll be fun to get into. I'm like, oh wow, now we get to really dig into inside jokes about burrito joints. But also there are places that I've never been that we're going where we get to learn more about Charlotte and San Antonio. Because all of our suggestions are coming from the audience, it's a really interesting survey of what a place is like and what's on people's minds and hearts.
And then when we go to the UK, that's not happening. That's not happening. But like, I'm gonna just
come on, West End,
onto the universe.
Go get a word.
Sound like you're from London, yeah.
Wanker.
What can be long to do? No, it's more Australian, I guess.
Just throw like some Ted Lasso stuff out. It's totally fine.
Haven't watched it.
We get Ted Lasso as a suggestion all the time, and Aneesa and I are clearly the only people who have not seen Ted Lasso. We hear it's great.
Don't say Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
we should just watch it.
I know.
I will also tag that. I'll tag that on social. Don't say Ted Lasso anymore at Freestyle Love Free.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to take it, but we should probably just get. We should chip in for Apple TV.
I'm so excited that you were both able to join me today. Again, Freestyle Love Supreme plays at the Booth Theater until January 2nd. Then the national tour kicks off. You can buy your tickets today. Andrew, Aneesa, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Oh, and Academy, I don't think we said, is fls.academy. Come join us.
Check
it out.
We will link it down below so everyone can find out how to join.
Sweet. SJ, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.